I'm giving myself just 1 week to build an entire game in RPG Maker. I'm not going to build a whole ass RPG in 1 week. Instead, y'all ever hear of Blue Spheres? Blue Spheres is a bonus game within Sonic 3 and Knuckles. You collect blue spheres. Collect them all, you get a Chaos Emerald. Touch a red sphere, you lose. Now how does the player control these funny animals? They steer them along a grid. See where I'm going with this? Mix that with RPG Maker's tile-based movement and bam, groundwork. I want to make sure the movement works first before I start prettying everything up, so I'm just going to use the graphics from my other game, Slay Queen. I should probably talk about that really quick, promise. Okay, so I'm currently working on another project, Slay Queen. I'm not abandoning it, but I got this comment on one of my videos, and specifically this part inspired me to take a week to build the game really quick. Alright, back to the video. Anyway, I want movement to work. Ground rules. The player starts stationary. Once the player starts moving, there is no stopping short of a game over. No 180-degree turns, and they beat the level by collecting all the collectibles. First, I had to get the movement right, and after some trial and error, I got some pretty responsive movement. I'm also going to add that little bit of delay to the turn because it gives the player some much-needed breathing room. Also, no 180-degree turns. Sorry, bubs. Okay, this isn't working. Something like this can happen when the player is stopped, and that could really mess with the player's sense of control. I gotta scrap the whole thing. Alright, finally it works. Movement is done. I never have to worry about it ever again. What about jumping? In Blue Spheres you can jump. Nah, it's too much. Really? Yes, really. I just know deep in my bones. Deep in my bones, bro. That trying to get jumping in this game is just gonna be a rabbit hole I don't have time for. Next is the failure state. This function returns what tile ID the player is currently occupying. This will be checked after the player has moved. If the player is touching anything but a ground tile, the player fucking dies! Oh my god! So that's the most basic threat of the level, the walls. But what's interesting about blue spheres is that you leave more hazards. Every time you collect a blue sphere, you poof out a little red sphere. Now what's interesting is that if you make it so that you leave a trail of red spheres that encircle at least one blue sphere, they all transform into rings. You can collect all the rings if you want to, but that's more time spent in the level. And the longer you spend time in the level, the more you speed up, meaning it's harder to steer the funny little animal. What I'm getting at is that there are two vectors by which the level gradually and organically increases in difficulty. Collectibles turn into hazards, and time spent in the level makes control difficult. Gradually increasing speed is easy to do. In fact, to distinguish my game from Blue Spheres, I'll have the player get faster with each collectible collected, and instead of trying to finagle some weird algorithm so that certain hazards turn into bonuses, because I want to do that, that's hard. They all turn into fully autonomous, AI-driven, fully conscious hazards, not really. The scraps are replaced with animals. Why? Well, here's the story real quick. You play as a drag racer, but your car blows up and you go flying into the looping forest. You have to collect the parts of your car to advance to the next level. The animals don't like that your scraps are here, so when you collect them, they return to the level and have movement-specific behavior that's simple and predictable. If you collide with an animal, you die. First, the collectible, and now, to place it and collect it. Sweet. Alright, let's fix that real quick. Here we go. This is essentially the first finished level in a way. Now I'm going to turn these bad boys into big-ass, circling dragonflies. And I want them to fade in and all, so that the player has time to get a safe distance away, but also see that the hazard is spawning in. And then we'll have ramping difficulty. And just like that, oh, come on, you sick bastard. Gradually fade in. Work! Why you popping up like a dumbass? Oh, I'm using the wrong function. I was using the wrong function. Oh, I swear I'll fucking end it. Hell yeah, dude. Now, let's apply this to all the other events, and we got something looking pretty close to a finished game. So, in order to make the player faster with each collectible collected, I have to do math.
Stinky.
And that is the first level done. Pardon me while I add the counter. Now to add the frog enemy. I don't know if I like the way that they're jumping. Let me see if I can't find something online. RPG Maker is restrictive with jumping properties for some reason. Oh? Oh, guess who's goated? It's you. That's more like it. Whoa! It's a groundhog! That's right, a groundhog will pop up out of the ground when you are in certain proximity. And with that, the first level is officially completed. I just wanted to point out that these enemies each have their own code for updating the scrap count here at the top left of the screen. I really should put this in the Common Events tab. If I put it in the Common Events tab and just call it in the Common Event, then any change I need to make with the code will apply to all enemies. With the way I have it set up currently, any changes that I need to make to the code will have to be manually applied to each enemy individually. Whatever. Okay, so I added some variety to how the player dies. Peep this tragic death. But also, I decided to take a look at the Blue Sphere special stages for inspiration, and I found something interesting. I'm using this site called vgmaps.com, and these are the maps from Sonic 3 and Sonic & Knuckles. I have the maps open on different tabs. I'm gonna tab through them. Notice anything? They're all the same freaking size. Oh my god. They certainly don't feel that way when you're playing them. I just thought it was interesting. So I made some levels. My criteria for if it's a keeper is, if I was watching somebody play this, would I say, let me try? And if I was the person playing, would I respond, wait, hang on, I almost got it. After looking at those Blue Spheres levels, I realized that the trick is to come up with a pattern and then add some asymmetry to make the gameplay interesting. Oh, and as for the pixel art, here it is. And with the sprite work done, this is starting to look like a complete game as well. And after creating a proper death and restart state, which didn't take me hours, and anybody who says it did probably sneezes with their eyes open. What are you keeping your eyes open for? Another opportunity to lie? Whore? I can finally get to making some levels. Now thems are some levels. I had one of my coworkers playtest the game and, listen, some lessons in life can't be taught through words or pictures or even stories. Some have to be learned through experience. I've always been told that solo devs make their games tough by accident because they get really good at their game by playtesting it so often, and they understand the rules outright. I didn't really know until my coworker struggled with the first level. I also wanted to point out that this coworker was the only other person to playtest this game other than myself. I hope it's a good game. So I designated level 1 to level 3 and made it a new level 1. I dub it New Favorite Child. New Favorite Child. New Favorite Child. So I ended up designing some levels and then I made this level. Look at all those collectibles. There's 212 of them to be precise. Do you remember earlier how I thought it was fine for each enemy event to have its own individual update event for the HUD? Remember how dumb that thought was? Well, guess what? It's still dumb. I only programmed the HUD to accommodate double digits, so if I try to designate more than 100 scraps, the game crashes. If I try to collect a scrap, the game crashes. So you know what I had to do? I had to rewrite the HUD and the update event, meaning I had to go through the mind-numbing task of changing all 212 update events. And you know what's worse? After rewriting the first event, I didn't bother to check it. I just went ahead on my merry way and copied and pasted the code to the other 211 events. And then I tested the game. And the worst part is, I still didn't think to put all this shit into one common event, which would have allowed me to simply call the event, rather than have 212 separate chunks of code. Eventually, I learned my lesson and wrote the damn thing into a common event, and the code finally worked.
Now it's time to say goodbye.
I'm 3 levels short of my 14 level goal. I need to make a menu for level selection. I don't have a main menu. I have no music. And I need an ending. I like those odds. So when you beat a level, that level is going to be added to the level select list. Simple. I made a common event, see I'm learning, to handle choice selection. And so the level list grows the farther along you are into the game. But if you go back to a level, the event states aren't reset. The enemies don't reset either. I tried a variety of things. A multitude of things. A plethora of things even. So many things. I tried a lot of things to get this shit to work. I even added another state to the finite state machine for all the other events to respond to. But that just made things so much messier. Enemies wouldn't spawn, or would spawn sometimes, or if I went back to replay the level, stuff wouldn't spawn, or let's say stuff did respawn in that level when I went back to play it. Well, if I went to the level before it, and then beat that level, and then came back to the level that I selected earlier, well then guess what? Who wouldn't spawn? The collectibles. Look, I'm just going to work on something else and leave it to the last, unfortunately. So I'll compose the level music. The song's loop is pretty basic. I think it's a fine 50-second loop, but for 11 levels, that's why I have a little trick up my sleeve. All I do is this and... Okay, that didn't work. Let me go into the console and all I do is... For fuck's sake. Okay, what script call would change the... Would this do it? No. What about this? What does the manager file say? Is that the play? I have to use this script call? Oh, come on. Okay, I want to pitch shift it, okay? I want the pitch to shift once you start to speed up, okay? That's the reveal. That's the future reveal I wanted to show, okay? That's the big solution mystery. But this is dumb. This engine, oh my god, why is it so hard? Wait. Now for the title screen. It's just something basic that I can make in the engine itself, okay? No more art skills required. It's just a basic stretch of land that loops. I'll just use the same press enter text to have the player begin. Easy money. So anyway, back to the level select issue. So I solved the problem with the enemies not loading into the game. Now the scrap counter doesn't update, and then in fixing that, I broke the enemy spawning issue again. And then I ended up back at square one, but then I added a bunch of stuff to my code just so that it wouldn't work anymore. Okay, so don't be mad, okay? I'm opting for a password system. Yes, I said it, okay? I'll be using a combination of the arrow keys on the title screen. It's only 6 characters long, so it ain't going to be too bad, but it's all I can think of to solve this problem. I set up this input reader on the title screen, and if you press the correct order of inputs, then you get transported to the level that you want. And apparently I also forgot how to evaluate arrays, but this website has the answer. Now, let's just get this all working. Oh, hell yeah, dude. Now that all the levels have their passwords and that's working, I have one last thing I have to do. An end screen. And there it is, folks. I also used some music from an older project for the title screen and the end screen, and that's it. The game's finished. It's not the best. There aren't any sound effects for dying or picking up scraps or transferring from level to level. The text box is the default RPG Maker text box. I had to use a password system, despite the fact that the engine comes with a built-in save system. This scrap doesn't appear until you start moving. None of the backstory made it into the game, and there's a bug where you indeed can turn 180 degrees. But it's a finished game nonetheless. And I feel like I've learned some important lessons, like how maxing out my mom's credit cards to buy the other kid's Fortnite skin is how you become the coolest guy in class. If you like this video, I have an entire playlist of me developing another game called Slay Queen, which is my main project. Check it out if you're interested. Also, like, comment, and subscribe.